Hello everyone. In this lecture, we'll learn about the final step in Marvelous Designer editing UVs and exporting your garment. This is an essential step for bringing the garments you've created into other 3D software like Blender. First, let's understand what UVs are. UVs are essentially a flattened, unwrapped version of your 3D model's surface. They allow you to apply 2D texture images onto the 3D geometry. Think of it like this. A 3D garment is a three-dimensional box, and UV is the flat, unfolded diagram of that box. This flattened layout allows you to accurately apply 2D image textures to your 3D model. If the UV placement is incorrect, the texture will appear distorted, causing patterns to blur or become squashed. In other words, UV editing is an essential process for achieving a high-quality finish. Now, let's actually start UV editing. Displaying the UV editor. From the menu bar, click Window, then UV Editor to open the UV Editor window. Once the UV Editor opens, you'll see tabs at the bottom of the screen. These tabs allow you to switch between the 2D pattern window and the UV Editor. When you open the UV Editor, you'll see your current UV layout. The UV Editor shows a grid of tiles. Fundamentally, all UVs must fit within the 0 to 1 tile. This 0 to 1 tile corresponds to the range of the texture image. A common issue is that as you work on your garment, the UV layout can become disorganized. Pattern pieces may extend outside the 0 to 1 tile or overlap with each other, which we'll need to fix. First, we'll reset the UV layout to a clean state. Right-click anywhere in the UV editor and select Reset UV to 2D Arrangement. This will rearrange all the UV islands to match the layout of your 2D patterns. Next, right-click again and select Fit UV to 0 to 1. This automatically positions all patterns to fit within the 0 to 1 tile. Before we export, let me share some crucial tips for optimal UV layout. If you place your pattern pieces too small within the UV space, you're essentially wasting texture resolution. This will cause your fabric patterns and details to appear blurry or pixelated, losing realism. Carefully move and rotate your pattern pieces to minimize empty space. The more efficiently you pack the UVs, the better texture resolution you'll achieve across your entire garment. Once your UV layout is optimized, it's time to export. Marvelous Designer supports several export formats, with OBJ and FBX being the most common. For this tutorial, we'll use FBX format because it offers excellent compatibility with Blender and supports animation data if you need that functionality in the future. Go to File, then Export, and select FBX. A Save dialog will appear. Choose a location, give your file a name, and click Save. This will bring up the FBX Export Settings dialog. Let's go through each important setting. Let me walk you through the key export settings. First, for the avatar option, select Exclude Rig, since we don't have animation data. Second, for object split, choose Single Object. This combines all your pattern pieces into one unified mesh. If you selected multiple objects, each pattern piece would export as a separate object. Third, for fabric thickness, select Thick. This ensures the fabric thickness you set in Marvelous Designer is preserved in the export. The Thin option would ignore that thickness. Fourth, and this is important, check Unified UV Coordinates. This applies the UV layout we just carefully organized. Fifth, for image size, I recommend starting with 2048 pixels. This gives good quality without huge file sizes. You can go up to 4096 for higher quality, or down to 1024 or 512 if you need smaller files. For the texture maps themselves, enable Diffuse Map and Normal Map. These are the most essential. Sixth, for file type, select Binary. This creates smaller files that load faster. Seventh, set the FBX SDK version to 2020 for best compatibility. Eighth, for scale, choose meters. This is crucial because Blender uses meters by default. If you use the wrong unit, your garment will appear gigantic or tiny when imported. Finally, for texture, select Embed Media. This packages all texture images directly into the FBX file, keeping everything in one convenient package. Once you've configured all these settings, click OK to start the export.